I'd like to thank everyone who's here for taking the time to attend this session. It's on enterprise manufacturing intelligence, also known as manufacturing intelligence or operational intelligence. There are a number of terms that people use for EMI. Enterprise manufacturing intelligence, while it's not really a new technology, it's a technology that's use is growing, and it's growing because of the new technologies. And it's rapidly transforming industry because of new technology that's evolving and making it easier to get information, insight, and answers that help people measure the benefits and show value for the technology. And because of the need to improve performance by using the enormous amounts of data and intelligence that companies are collecting, companies are starting to unlock the value of manufacturing intelligence, which is hidden in manufacturing databases and spreadsheets. We just saw a number of presentations all about, partly about EMI. So what I'd like to do is talk about ARC's definition of EMI so that we're all on the same page. And then I'd like to talk about some of the drivers, strategies, and benefits that we heard from users and suppliers about the use of EMI. And then I'd like to talk about our recent EMI survey that we did and a few of the results. I don't have all to present to you just due to time. And then I'd also like to use my own little measurement here because EMI involves analytics. So what I'd like to do is keep track of the people that are coming in the room versus those that are going out of the room over the total in the room, and hopefully that'll be called the BRR, or the back row ratio. So that's my measurement for how good a job we do today. So hopefully it'll be positive. And if it's positive, that's a good thing. Well, the way that we defined EMI, it's a pretty standard definition, is it is a subset of CPM and an extension, CPM MES. So if you haven't heard of EMI, that's really what it is. And imagine, if you will, for a minute, that you take all the information you're collecting from the shop floor and you have all this data that's being collected in various systems, some of which are the control and automation systems, as well as other systems. You have your manufacturing level with the MES and CPM, and then you're collecting all this data. Well, EMI fits within that subset of CPM, and it gives you the visualization and the KPIs and the tools that you need and the reporting tools, and that's the part that EMI represents of CPM. So that gives you a perspective of what EMI is. One of the things is people ask is, well, why use EMI? Well, as one plant manager told me, as one plant manager told me, we have all this data, but we really don't know what to do with it. We're drowning in data but starving for information and knowledge. Well, EMI takes the data from the control system, the LIMS system, the document management system, your warehouse management system, and many of the other systems that are out there, and turns it into useful information, knowledge, and intelligence. EMI is really about empowering today's workers. The underlying philosophy of EMI is basically to improve the manufacturing performance by integrating historical and real-time data, process information quality data, and other production data, and turning it into meaningful information. And some of the new technologies that Andy had mentioned earlier today, like the cloud, like the mobility tools, they're all tools that are helping to enable EMI, as well as the fact that a lot of the tools are getting easier to use, the way that the technology is useful, using your touch button, drill down type interfaces. And all of those are adding to the growth of EMI. So, and from EMI, you can make very insightful decisions and creative decisions. And EMI solutions acquire the manufacturing shop floor data. They establish the operating context for that data. They perform an analysis and ensure that the data is acceptable to a variety of different users. If the technology does only one function, like analytics or dashboards, like just OE or ARC, that might be a part of EMI, but it's not the complete picture. What EMI does is it integrates all of the data from multiple databases, from multiple systems, and aggregates the data. Then it takes and it contextualizes the data or structures the data into a recognizable format. And from there it takes and does the data quality management. So if you actually have the data, do you trust it? And that's what the data quality management is. It's not taking the data for granted, but making sure it's good data that the workers can trust. It does the analytics on the data, and then it does the visualization. It takes it from multiple systems, multiple data sources. It does the data aggregation, it does the analytics, and it does the manufacturing intelligence, or your KPIs. So just in summary, it has the data integration, the aggregation, the data contextualization, the data quality management, the analytics, and data visualization and reporting. Some of the EMI market dynamics, and I didn't put all of the dynamics, there's a number of different dynamics and different factors that contribute to growth, as well as those factors that inhibit growth. So ARC identified a number of those factors, and I picked a couple of those for this presentation that I thought were thought-provoking and might get some discussion going. One factor contributing to EMI growth is the globalization. The fact that there's so many mergers and acquisitions in companies with different databases and different practices and different best practices, the corporations are starting to standardize and use these best practices to reduce their costs. And EMI lends itself to the practices of multiple plants and corporate-wide standards and best practices. These companies have to make decisions faster, and that's a big contributing factor to the growth of EMI. Another factor is being able to make those decisions factors. Some of the factors inhibiting growth, and this one to me was one that really hit home, and that's having the lack of an EMI culture. And I remember being a young engineer, and you have top management that's supporting something that the workers think is a great idea, but then you have middle management that's confused as to whether they should allow their workers to work on it or not. And sometimes it doesn't lend itself to the culture of the organization. They're not a culture that collects data and uses it for good purposes, or they are a culture that collects data but they don't use the data. And that happens quite frequently at companies. And also there's a lot of cultural issues, and it involves the people issues and what they're going to do with the data. So I think EMI can actually help, the technology can help people to use that data better and make sense of the data. And it becomes entrenched in the corporation and how they utilize the data, and it becomes part of the culture. And companies that don't have an EMI culture can become EMI cultured, but it just takes a little more effort. For end users that have an EMI culture, it's a very good fit. For those that don't, they have to work a little harder to get there and to become more entrenched in the EMI culture of analyzing information and using it to make decisions. Before I'm done, I'll get this right. So some of the strategies, and I just picked a few for using EMI, can be viewed both from an end user's perspective and a supplier perspective. These are not in order of importance by any means, but one of the big ones is being intuitive and easy to use. And that's what I mean about some of the new technologies. You can drill down, you can utilize the technology. Some of them are 3D, and there's other awesome features that I've seen that can really enable workers, and especially with this new generation of the digital generation workers, they want it to be easy to access. They don't want to learn about all the analytics. They want to be able to just use the tools and go. I call them the push button and go generation. And another feature that strategy is the integration capabilities, the ability to integrate the data easily. You have multiple systems, sometimes even proprietary systems. And the easier this is to integrate, the more use people will use the EMI system. And another strategy that I picked was the return on investment. Having the ability to measure the value, that is a key factor. If you can take and determine easily the value that you're getting from that system, you know you're going to be able to do more with the EMI system. You're also attributing it to your value, and companies are pleased with the results. They're pleased with what people are doing and workers are doing, having that EMI system. So when using EMI, the knowledge is extremely important, but the improvements or the actions where your ROI is realized is probably where the real value of EMI is. A few more of the benefits, and just some of the user benefits that we've seen, and again, I just picked a few, there's a lot more, is one was the idea behind global collaboration, the fact that you can support and enforce standards and best practices across organizations, across multiple plants, and inevitably get better results. And having an integrated operating environment is really important, and this idea of linking the information from the plant floor to the business globally. I mean, that's an ideal situation. And then the other benefit from EMI is being able to reduce your costs by making decisions faster and improving your profit, and it does ultimately lead to operational excellence. So now we're going to take a little sidebar, if I can get. And what I'd like to do is I recently did a survey online. It's an ARC survey. And if you haven't had the opportunity to take it, I put the link in the presentation. Or if you're just thinking about it, I'd like it for the end users to take it. Send me an email if you're thinking, oh, I'd like to take that survey, and I'll send you an email back with the link, if that makes it easier for you to take. And what I do like to do is present some of the results so far. And these by no means are all of the questions. When you take the survey, you'll notice a lot more questions and things. I think the results come up when you take it to date that we asked. Some of the top-ranked EMI challenges, we asked people what their challenges was the integration of the data. No surprise there, I bet. Many people use multiple systems from different vendors in different locations, and they also use, we talked about this today too, the spreadsheets, spreadsheet spread. And it all makes it difficult for many folks to integrate the information. And many companies manage data from systems to system or process to process or silo to silo, as we discussed earlier, rather than as a whole picture. And EMI helps to lend itself to bring that whole picture together and integrate those silos. And also the cost to implement and deploy EMI can be difficult to justify, which was the second top-ranked challenge. So no surprise there, folks. And the ability to justify it. So if you can measure the benefits, you can justify EMI. Because there are enormous benefits to be gained from using EMI. We also asked participants what % implemented or plan to implement an EMI solution. And of the respondents, most manufacturers have implemented or planning to implement in one location, but they are starting to implement in multiple locations. And we had a wide variety of answers in that respect. So hopefully the people that are doing more of that will answer the survey, and we'll have some other results. Did I miss one? Okay. We also asked about the per-site EMI budgets for next year, and per-site, the majority of the respondents that took the survey said they were going to be spending about half $500,000, somewhere less than that. And then there was a whole range of people that were going to be spending over $2 million on it. So we also asked the end users that access the solution the aspects of how many users they have accessing the solution, because that to me kind of gives me an idea of the complexity of the systems. And most people had somewhere around 5 to 10. There was a few with 11 to 50, but the majority, and then there was another part of the curve that was 250 and over. So there was some very large systems and smaller users that took the survey. So I also asked about specific analytical tools used. Not that I was focused on the analytical tools, but I was just curious about that. And I think analytics are really important, and it's an important aspect of EMI to make the decisions in real time, to be able to, you don't want to be an expert on analytics, but at the same time, you want to be able to use the tools to to get the information, make the decisions faster. And having those analysis tools can help operators and workers uncover information that's not readily apparent, like when they're scanning hundreds of worksheets. I asked one plant manager, I said, oh, you mean you scan 10, 20 spreadsheets a day? He goes, 20 or 20. He goes, I scan 100. And I'm like, how could anybody manage 100 spreadsheets a day? You know, and you would have to be somebody who's very experienced. You couldn't give this to somebody right out of school to manage. And the fact is, you probably would miss very important facts that you may not find unless you use the analytics. So manufacturers are recognizing that analytics can help them find value in the data that they've been collecting to make the better decisions that are based on real facts. And these facts can be based on historical reports, some are based on real-time information, and some are based on drill downs and queries. So, and they come in a wide variety of packages. Some are static reports, some are the spreadsheets, and also integrating to spreadsheets. And that can be another inhibitor for EMI, is integrating to the spreadsheet data for people. We also asked participants what types of dashboards are used. And the number one type was the product-based information dashboard, followed by role-based dashboards and performance-based dashboards. And many of the performance-based were around OEE applications. At least that was the appearance. So we also drilled down a little further. We asked, what is the role-based dashboards being designed for? And the number one answer was that they're being designed for the operation of production management, which pretty much no surprise. It was also for the operators, and then the third answer was for corporate information. The one that surprised me was where the engineers ranked in the engineering management. I didn't like the answer because having to have a background in engineering, I didn't like that, but that's how it came out. So just a few final thoughts on EMI. EMI is really about making the information available, but it's also about making it available to the right person at the right time. And it's about the culture, having the right culture to do EMI, being enforced by management, and showing the value of the benefits that you get from EMI. Also having the information and integrating that information, having the technology that works well with your organization. And there's a number of technologies out there that can incorporate and use that. And some people incorporate this into their CPM applications, and some people have separate EMI-specific applications. And if you're considering an EMI application, I would go forward with it. I try a pilot. I use that pilot to measure and realize the benefits, and then roll it out to other areas of the plant. There are enormous benefits that can be realized, and people do waste too much time trying to find the right data and information when what they really need is the answers that provide insights for the decisions that they want to make. So the questions will be held during a panel question and answer session at the panel, and we do have some very interesting case histories about the use of EMI at a couple of companies that will be up here in 1 minute, and some of the benefits that they're obtaining. And we kind of focused on the benefits. So I think that you guys are going to see some very interesting applications of EMI. So please don't forget to add your thoughts to our survey over the next couple of weeks. And the results of that survey will be updated. I'm going to produce a report based on the survey. So contact me with any thoughts you might have. And if you need that link, don't forget to send me an email, and I'll be glad to send it back to you. So thank you very much. Appreciate your time.